Welcome back, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show.
We just got breaking news in.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show. Well, it's time to turn it up today. The Giants have made their biggest trade since 1996, November of 1996, where they sent Matt Williams to get Jeff Kent, and trading for Boston third baseman, DH, first baseman, whatever he's going to end up playing over in San Francisco, Rafael Devers. Before we get going, I'm going to give a quick shout out to George Curry here, who he been asking for this for a long time. So I know he's constantly been on here. I think none of us really expected this to be a deal that they could get done or would get done, because just kind of his situation. But shout out, George. You were on that one for a while. So want to definitely give him some love. But as everyone knows, the trade is Rafael Devers going to San Francisco. Going back to Boston is going to be Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, number 4 prospect right now, James Tibbs III, as well as Jose Bello, who was a 20-year-old in the complex league. So we'll dive in also on what the Giants gave up in this deal. But how you feeling, guys?
Bang, boy. We're hyped.
Finally a big hitter. First bringing in Adames in the offseason, now Devers, and then Buster getting rid of Lamont Wade Jr., now Jordan Hicks, cleaning house of all the Farhan scraps. Nice to see.
Yeah. This is such a big deal in so many respects, because number one, they haven't been able to get a bat like this. And this is easily the best left-handed bat the Giants have had in this park since Barry Bonds retired. Like, this is the best bat they've had since 2004 Barry Bonds. This is an impressive hitter. He is easily a top 10 to 15 bat in the game today. We're going to pull up some of the StatCast stuff, and there's some really interesting things with in regards to how his bat might play in Oracle Park, where you kind of notice that perhaps Boston really wasn't the best environment for him to hit in, even relative to Oracle. So there's some pretty interesting stuff, but it kind of spells the entire notion that the Giants couldn't make trades like this for years, because they had this farm system. And while we all think it's improving, it is not a great farm system. And they just went out and got a legitimate star using what they had. And these are a lot of guys that were available for Farhan to trade for years. So pretty crazy what they were able to accomplish. This is the most excited I've been over a move in forever, it feels like.
No, for sure. And this is a guy that fans and, viewers of the show have been asking us about and asking about on X in general. Hey, is it possible to make a move for Devers? And the three of us kind of downplayed it because we didn't think there was even a remote chance of it happening. All of us probably felt the same. My thoughts were, hey, it would be nice, but it's probably not going to happen. And if you do, you're probably going to give up an arm and a leg. And in my opinion, this just feels like an absolute steal for the Giants. Yes, losing James Tibbs kind of hurts. I know a lot of fans are kind of have mixed opinions about him, but same with Harrison. But you being able to get off of that Hicks deal and get him out of your team and out of your pen in general, and like you mentioned, just bring in a bona fide star. I know Cody or Ricky mentioned it a little bit earlier when we were talking, and I put it on X earlier. We weren't able to even get close to landing a star for the entire 6 years that Farhan was in control of the regime, and in less than a year, Buster's locked down 3. So it's truly remarkable. And like you mentioned, with some of the numbers that Devers has, I sent it to you guys earlier. He's got 15 home runs on the season, and he has 11 doubles in Fenway. 11 of those doubles would have been home runs at Oracle. Now, would have all 15 been home runs at Oracle? I think there's probably a handful that might not have, but you're still talking 20 plus home runs if he hit all of those in Oracle. So just, by all means, it's just a wonderful move that this team desperately needed. and you got him locked up and through 2023 or 2033, I should say. So it's just it's a good day to be a Giants fan. Screw that L. No one cares about that today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a day the Giants lost to the Dodgers and less fans gave a crap.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's kind of funny, honestly, too, when we're all talking about the lineup, a couple hours before the game started, and we're like, man, this is a rough lineup to look at when you're trying to go for the series win against the Dodgers. And then at the time, you also had Kyle Harrison on the mound, which hasn't been bad this year, but his last start was very shaky. And against the Dodgers lineup, you're not feeling too confident about it. And then all of a sudden this comes through and, you've got Kyle getting scratched last second. The Devers trade comes through. Jelly starting. All of a sudden, Joey Lucchese's up on the team. All the reporters didn't even know about that. Like, literally nobody knew about that. Absolutely wild. And then you're just slowly finding out about each individual piece of that trade that's going through, a few minutes spread out apart from each other. But yeah, it was wild today, seeing this news come through. And, this is actually like the first, like Cody said, the first true star that's actually coming through here. Willie was a great signing, more so than anything because of the position he plays and how, you pretty much knew that was going to be a black hole since after Crawford left. So that was more of a need-based signing. Chapman, again, was more of a need-based signing. They absolutely needed to fill a hole at third base. And I'm not saying there's not a hole at first base, but, obviously with Bryce around the corner, you're not really thinking as much of, having this long-term hole at first. But with Devers coming in, it's not only just, filling in at potentially first base, but also a left-handed bat. And then, again, just a star hitter. Like, none of these signings or trades that the Giants have made come anywhere close to this move. On so many levels. You're also getting Devers before at an earlier age than you would with a lot of other guys who hit free agency who are, coming in at 30 or 31 years old. Devers is only 28. He is literally a young star and somebody like Cody mentioned earlier who the Red Sox were looking to build around. And now he's here and he's in his prime. He's like a top 10 to 15 hitter in baseball. And that's honestly being conservative when you look up his numbers across the board. So super exciting. Definitely did not see this coming at all. And this is way bigger than bringing in like a Jarren Duran, This is huge.
Yeah. I think everybody heard trade with Boston. And I know a few guys in the group chat mentioned it too, where it's like you hear trade with Boston and immediately everyone's like, oh, crap, we traded for Duran. And then it was like, they got Devers? Are you kidding me? Boston actually traded Devers. And I know you guys mentioned this. We're going to get into the haul that they sent back. But this, I'm not going to sit here and claim that Rafael Devers is as good a player as Mookie Betts because he's not. Mookie is a true 5-tool player. But I mean, this might age like that trade for Boston. I mean, they're going to sit there and come out and claim that, oh, the numbers benefit us and what we're getting back is a good package. But I mean, as we're all aware, and we're high on guys like Kyle Harrison and James Tibbs III in particular. And I mean, they are far from sure things. Harrison's got this incredible ceiling, but he's got so much that he needs to improve on to even sniff that ceiling. James Tibbs, I actually think is going to be a pretty solid player, especially in that park. I think he could be really damn good. But I mean, he's in high A. There's a lot that can change in the next, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever for him. So long ways to go. With Devers, let's just kind of go into the player he is. We all mentioned the bat. We all kind of know what that, how he is there. His career is like a 128 OPS plus on his career. If you look at his last handful of years, his OPS has been pretty much between 2019 and 2025. What's his OPS? He had a 793 in the shortened 2020 season, but in all the full seasons since then, the 162 game seasons, the lowest it's been is 851. His lowest OPS plus in that span was 126. he's been pretty consistently about 40+% better than league average, especially for the last 4 years. His home run totals in that span, 32, 38, 27, 33, 28 last season. And his hit 14 already this season in 72 games. So he's like a 30 homer machine. He drives in 100 runs. His bad years with RBIs is like high 80s. This guy can flat out rake. Now, a lot of people are asking kind of what's he going to do defensively. And I think that's going to be a massive question. Obviously, he didn't really want to play first base in Boston. And there have been kind of rumors all around on that where, you know, some people are saying like, oh, he doesn't want to play first base at all. Other people have mentioned that he, you know, is willing to play first base. He's just unwilling to do it in Boston because he felt like he got lied to when they were telling him we want to build around you at third base. And that was a big part of why he signed that extension there. So he just is like, no, I'll do it. But out of principle, it's not going to be here. It's going to be really interesting. He might just be a DH. I mean, there's a lot of questions. There's obviously Bryce Eldridge coming up. I mean, we're going to have a lot to dive into, but you know, what are your guys' thoughts here?
Yeah, so like you touched on, that's something that a lot of fans are kind of overreacting about was this, you know, beef and comments with Boston earlier in the year. It's like I mentioned to you guys, it's principle over position, in my opinion. It's the fact that they signed him to that long contract and told him, hey, we're going to build around you. And then out of the blue, they say, oh, never mind. We're going to bring in Bregman. You're off third base. And then we're just going to kind of plug you in where we see fit. Like, that's just a slap to the face to a player that you're signing to a long-term deal that you claim is, you know, the face of your franchise. So to me, I don't think it's more of an attitude thing as much as, you know, blatant disrespect on Boston's part, which I give a lot of kudos to Buster and Bomel for their comments today when they were asked by the media, hey, what position he's going to play? And they said, you know, we're not going to disclose that. We want to talk with him first. Like, they're making it known that they want to have communication with the star player that they're bringing into their team to make sure everybody's on the same page and make sure, you know, you're not going to run into any little rifts such as that. So I'm definitely, you know, all around just thrilled for that kind of deal. So as far as positioning is concerned, I mean, you kind of touched on it. If he's more than capable of playing third if he wants to. Chappie will be back in 3-4 weeks. It's also dependent on what's up with Casey and his ankle. We got that contusion earlier today, so hopefully it's nothing too serious. Yeah, you just brought in Dom Smith, who's been playing majority of the time at first, but you really have a chance to now beefing up your lineup if you're going to play, you know, Dom at first, because you know he can pick it, and you're going to slide Devers into the DH role. That adds another lefty pop bat in your lineup, but then that kind of brings Wilmer more into a reserve role off the bench, which I'm perfectly fine with if you guys know me. So at best case scenario, man, here in a few weeks, you'll have an infield consisting of Chapman, Adames. We're all vouching for Casey at second over Fitz. I want Dom Smith at first, and then you got Devers DH, and that's a nasty lineup, and that's the infield in general. So long term, we'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, Bryce is going to be the man at first, but who knows? I mean, if Devers end up picking it a little bit better than Bryce, maybe you kind of rotate them between first base and DH. You know, Bryce played a little bit of corner outfield. He's obviously not the greatest, but maybe you slide him into one of those when Yaz is off the books next year. I mean, you got some flexibility now. And flexibility and having too many good hitters is never a bad thing for a team.
I remember an interview actually came out with Bryce Eldridge when he was in high school. And I guess he played outfield a lot in high school. And he said he felt comfortable in the outfield. Obviously, the Giants didn't feel great about what they saw in the very short stint in 2023 after they drafted him. But I wouldn't rule that out, that they toy around with him back in left fielders. I don't think you'd put him in right field at Oracle, but I could see them toying with it in left field. You know, with Ramos not playing great defense this year, it kind of puts a wrench in that. Last season, I think we would have all felt pretty comfortable with him in right field. This season, it's less so. But yeah, I mean, they kind of have a couple guys that might be better suited for DH, and maybe 3 of them potentially when Bryce gets here. And they only got 1 spot, so they're gonna have to get a little creative with how they're gonna, you know, break that all down.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing for me that I've been consistently saying since the trade news came out is, I don't see any way that Buster Posey makes this trade and, commits all that money without knowing that Devers is actually willing to move off of third base. And it's a completely different situation than what he had in Boston, where he's already established in Boston at third base. And then they go behind his back, bring in a Bregman who is a very good player and is a defensive upgrade, but they go behind his back and make that move and sign Bregman to a longer deal versus him coming into this situation. He already knows Matt Chapman, the best defensive third baseman in the league, is already established there. It's different. You kind of know what you're working with. And, to the Giants' credit, they've been a lot better than the Red Sox have been this year. And, they clearly have shown that if they can just get a little bit of hitting, they're going to be a really tough team to beat going forward.
Yeah.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Shout out Nathan. Appreciate that. I can't answer that, but if you know me, you know what I would say. So that's all I'm gonna say.
I think Nathan just gets drunk and then just tips $5 to see what kind of reactions he can get out of us every night.
He just tries to make us laugh.
Appreciate it though.
Appreciate
it.
Friend fan, yes,
Yeah.
You got it.
That's hilarious. And Bob does have a good amount of money, so just wait that one out. It just answered all the questions. There you go, everybody.
There you go. What's up, Darius?
What's up, Darius? Yeah, so Devers, just so everyone wants, I'm sure people are wondering. I know it's been out there. He's under contract through 2033. His tax hit is going to be $28.5 million pretty much every year. Next season, his tax hit is $29.15 million for the next 8 years. If anybody that's wondering where the Giants stand with the tax, this season they are still under the tax. They are at $212 million on the tax. Getting Hicks off their their tax hit this season is huge. Harrison was only making like $800K or whatever it was, so that wasn't a big hit. But getting Hicks off, that's big. They're still about 20 or 25, I think, million under the tax for this season. Next season, they're only at 143, even with Devers on there. And I'm trying to make sure that this is including Devers because I believe it does. The one I'm looking at. Oh, my apologies. COTS is not updated theirs. So they lost Hicks. They're probably at about 230-ish this season. So they have about, I think, 7 million to work with.
About 7 million, like I've been saying since last August. A bunch falls off the books after this year as well. Yes. So
161-ish for next season.
Yeah. So you'll be what? That's like 50-ish, 55-ish under, depending on where it's going to end with some of these bigger contracts already locked up. So you guys, you're in a position to watch a pretty fun offseason, put it that way.
Oh, yeah. They are well positioned.
And I mean, I'm not going to bank on it happening, but when you look at a guy like Kyle Tucker or even like Bo Bichette on a lower level coming into this offseason, guys like that might have been harder to acquire, going into this offseason. But now you add in a Devers to the mix on top of what you already have. And then maybe if, Bryce starts knocking down the door at the end of this season, you might be able to talk, these free agents coming in, especially with Buster coming in and, trying to negotiate with these guys. I mean, obviously it worked with Willie. Who knows? Maybe we find out later that Buster had some sort of effect on convincing Devers to come over here too. And then maybe you start seeing some of these other free agents start, following these guys over here and seeing what San Francisco is all about.
Yeah, like you said, man. I mean, now you got legitimate stars on your team that can vouch for you. I mean, lot of people forget that Logan Webb is a star. Matt Chapman's a star.
Yeah.
Willie Adames. Now Devers. Bryce Eldridge is going to be an absolute star. So Jung-Hoo Lee, Elliot Ramos. I mean, you actually have legit star to superstar potential on your team that can vouch for some of these free agents compared to years past. I mean, what do they have to vouch for? You know, I don't want to bash the dude, but under the Farhan regime, you had Logan Webb, and then you're sending out Wilmer. You're sending out Wilmer, Ross Stripling, Alex Wood, and Austin Slater to your free agent meetings. Now look what you and Darren Ruff. Yeah, so yeah, it's a no-brainer. And it's not even like a short-term thing. Chappie, Willie, and Devers are all locked in through the 2030s. So you got a legit core of elite players that are going to be part of this team for years to come, which is only going to benefit the future of the team. So yes, sir, Junior.
That would be insane. I'm not putting anything past Buster Posey at this point. I mean, they kind of push their chips in right here. Like they really, but not like in a way where, they're all in on this season and the future's bleak beyond that. Like he kind of just put his what on the table. And I think one of the big things we said when they hired Zach Manassian as the GM was this guy had a history in Boston or in Milwaukee of making these huge deals under Doug Wilson. And here they are making a huge trade in year one. And it's something we've been begging for forever.
Huge trade in June, that is, as well.
Yeah, it is so hard to get trades done this time of year unless somebody is like actively forcing their way out of town. Like teams aren't looking to make trades in June.
And the cool thing is that Boston wasn't even shopping Devers. Like, yeah, there was a bunch of rumors, but report came out today. They weren't even actively shopping him. Buster just swooped in and said, you know what? Enough is enough. We got potential here. We're semi-close in the West. I'm making a splash. And you got to give him props for that.
Well, George, I'm going to flag this comment. We'll jump around to it in a little bit.
And we have a few starred that we'll answer here towards the end.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, make sure you throw them in the chat. If you're on X or Instagram watching this, jump on over to YouTube. If you can hit the like button, the subscribe button, help the channel grow. We really appreciate it. But throw your comments in there. Pops up easier on it doesn't pop up on our feed except for on there. So make sure you jump into YouTube if you want it, if you have any questions you want to answer. But we've definitely marked a couple to try and jump through.
Christopher, the keyword is actively.
Yeah. Also, Christopher asked what my thoughts were on the catching situation. Well, my friend, you must be very new to this channel because everybody knows how we feel about the catching situation. Whether you're talking about currently as in right now or the season as a whole, either way, the answer is not content or happy with it at all. Obviously we all love Bailey's defense. He's improved a lot. Believe it or not, even though he won a Gold Glove last year, he's done a lot better defensively. But obviously, none of us are really satisfied with his offensive game at all and have some major concerns with that. I'll pretty much leave it at that. Otherwise, all three of us are going to get going on a tangent here. But that's where we stand.
Yeah.
Especially me. Don't get me riled up. It's a happy day, guys.
Yeah, this is a good day.
I don't want to bring the catcher talk into it. Not today.
No, if you want to know our feelings on catcher, watch the last video I posted yesterday,
or just look through my X for 7 seconds.
Yeah, you can do a count on how many times Patrick Bailey and Joey Bart are mentioned on Dan's X account.
Joey Barrows,
founder of the Rafael Devers fan club. I just read your.
I add something new every week. I just thought that was fitting.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. All right, let's talk a little bit about the package going back. I mean, we kind of mentioned it. Giants gave up Kyle Harrison. He was a past top 20 prospect. They gave up Jordan Hicks. see ya. And they gave up James Tibbs III, who was their current number 4 prospect. He actually was a top 100 at the tail end of last year, kind of fell off. A lot of people might look at his batting average this season, thought he wasn't having a great year. I think if you batting average scout and box score scout, you probably thought he didn't have a good year. If you actually watched him quite a bit, you felt like he was having a really strong year, and the average was actually starting to recover a little bit finally. But he also had like 12 home runs in high A, was hitting the ball hard, had an insane on base percentage, really solid pick or player, first round pick last season. And then they gave up Jose Bello. On the whole, I actually thought it was a very fair package going back, all things considered. I do think the Giants are going to get the better end of this, given that they have the more proven players. But given the contract Devers has, he was never going to get an insane haul, especially when he's primarily viewed as a DH. But I mean, it is very savvy of Buster to have kind of done this before other teams really jumped in, because I do think the cost would have been greater had they, other teams really been involved. But I mean, all in all, I think it's a good haul for Boston. Tibbs, I really like as a player. I think he could be really good in that park. Harrison, we've talked a lot about how much he has just great potential, but he needs to work on a few things. I think it's going to be great seeing him with Patrick Bailey or Andrew Bailey again, because Andrew Bailey is now the pitching coach in Boston as of last season. I think getting him back with Andrew Bailey is going to be interesting. I think it could do a lot for him. Boston throws fastballs less than any team in the major leagues. So that'll actually be really interesting to see how that impacts Kyle going there. So I think you might see him kind of reinvent his game a little bit. He got sent down to AAA. But what did you guys think of the haul that the Giants sent out?
So 2 parts to this. If you're a baseball fan, it's definitely a fair deal. If you're a Giants fan, you can see how San Francisco wins. That's probably the best way that I can put it for the reasons you guys described. I mean, just starting out with Kyle Harrison, we all liked the guy. We all wanted to see him succeed. It really came down to a numbers game, and it's something we've been pointing out all season. Giants have way too many starters on their team, and you couldn't really find a role for Kyle. He's, went down to SAC, got thrown in the pen, came up as to being in the rotation when injuries hit, kind of shaky. I mean, it's just one of those things where long-term, he's not going to crack the rotation over Birdsong, and he wasn't outperforming Roop. I mean, yeah, Roop had one rough start yesterday, obviously, but prior to that, you're not outperforming him. So it was just really, a numbers thing with him. So it makes perfect sense that he got dealt. Jordan Hicks, I mean, if you're looking at it, like I said, from a baseball fan's perspective, he's a respectable pitcher by all means. But if you're looking at it from a Giants fan perspective, by all means, take him. I will pay you to take Jordan Hicks. Like, that's just kind of how I felt with that. The centerpiece of this deal was really around James Tibbs. Just due to that potential that he has. Like you mentioned, he has the, chance to be a really, really good player. But as you mentioned, he's still in high A. Us that, are a little bit more in depth with the prospects in minor leagues, we're big on him. Clearly, he's number 4 prospect for a reason. But it's like you've always said, Cody, for the last 2 years we've been doing this. If a trade doesn't hurt to an extent, you didn't give up enough. So did the Giants win? By all means, yes. Are we happy with what we gave up? It's definitely, respectable, but losing Tibbs does kind of hurt a little bit. But one of the beautiful things is you got a lot of outfield depth in your system. So it's something that you will recover from. So all things considered, I'm happy with it. Like you said, with the contract that he has, he wasn't going to get a haul, but I think the 3 of us and a lot of Giants fans can all agree that if the prior regime was in charge, you're probably losing either Bryce, Bo, or Dakota Jordan in a deal like this, and it would hurt a lot more.
Kidding? We'd still have all of them. Farhan didn't have the guts to make that trade. Absolutely not.
He wouldn't have made this trade, but he would have traded them.
He'd have offered Marco Luciano, and then they'd have said no, and he'd been like, "Oh, we tried, folks."
Yeah. No, I've got several thoughts on the trade. I mean, first one is I would much rather do this deal than what I would have expected they would have had to send out for it. I thought it was a little bit less. I thought almost on all fronts. It was a huge win for the Giants, not just in getting Devers, but like, yeah, I definitely, on a personal level, I feel like losing Tibbs hurts because I do really like his potential. And they just drafted him. That always, sucks when they just got him into the system and then you're losing one of your top guys like that. But this haul really didn't hurt as much as, I thought it would need to if I was told that they got Devers. First thought would be, Kyle Harrison. I think they traded him at the absolute best time they could have, because something I really critiqued a lot with the prior regime was trading guys either too late when they have almost no value, or just not trading them at all and letting their value completely bottom out. Guys like Marco Luciano, who, not that he doesn't have any value, but at one time he was a very high-end top 100 prospect, and they just never moved him when there was opportunities to get really good players in here for him if they included him in a package. And so it's one of those things where I look at a guy like Kyle Harrison, when you already have Roop and Birdsong, who won spots in the rotation this season, and clearly outplayed Harrison and showed better development than Harrison. It just made too much sense. I mean, we'd been talking about it for weeks on here now, that when you look at a rotation each year, you're not going to go and rely on 4 to 5 young starting pitchers at one time. Any good rotation is always going to have veterans, at least in the first couple of spots in the rotation, and then you backfill it with those younger guys. So it never made sense for them to go and say, okay, we're going to have Roop, Wisenhunt, Birdsong, and Harrison all in the rotation at the same time. At some point, you need to trade from those strengths and get rid of guys while they still have value, which is exactly what they did with Harrison. As far as Hicks goes, I mean, who is really losing sleep over losing Jordan Hicks? I mean, that's more of a win for us. Get that contract off the books and not have to worry about him being upset about getting relegated over the bullpen and dealing with his command issues and not knowing what role to stick him in. And just getting him out of the rotation in general. He was a lost cause. We knew right away that he was not a starting pitcher after, 2 months into that experiment. And then you look at, Bello, a 20-year-old in the ACL, that might be a guy that ends up being good down the road. But this time he was basically just a relief pitcher down there who was a little old for that level. And he's just kind of an unknown, that's a risk you're willing to take. So if Tibbs is really the only thing you feel like hurts for a guy of Devers' caliber, you have to make that move all day, every single day. And that is exactly what the prior regime just never could, basically put their balls on the table and do. Like, they just struggle to do that year in, year out. And now we're finally seeing some common sense come in here and actually go and make a bold move for once and bring in a legitimate star player.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
And yes, spaghetti, preach, brother.
Yep, 100%. Seeing what we got flagged here. Anything good?
Yeah, keep dropping questions. We'll get around to a lot of these.
I think Rafael Devers is a perfect number 3 hitter in this lineup.
Yeah, agreed.
Honestly, I don't know about you guys. I know they like Willie at 2. He's starting to swing it better. So if he's swinging it better, like, I'm fine with Willie hitting second. Especially because I don't think they're going to want to go lefty, righty, righty, or whatever behind that. So I do think they want to try and play the kind of the left, right game. So it makes sense to have Lee leading off, Willie second, Devers third, Ramos fourth, and then maybe you stack a couple. When Chapman gets back, maybe you go Chapman then Dom Smith. I don't know. They'll figure that out.
That was the lineup I dropped on X.
Is that what you put on it? Yeah,
like
it makes sense. Yeah,
yeah. I went Lee, Adames, Devers, Chappie, Ramos, Smith, KC, Yaz, Bailey.
Yeah, and see, me personally, I'd flip Chapman and Ramos just because I like Ramos better in runners in scoring position. But either way, that's a good lineup. Like I can get behind that.
My thought process is that Devers is going to blast one on the cove, and then Chapman can get on because nobody's on base, and then Ramos bring him in. That's my thought process.
Fair.
Where does Encarnacion go? Mexican League? I don't know.
Not San Francisco. Yeah. So
I mean, I fight with him off the bench, but
yeah, nah,
he's not a starter.
I mean, this just made the team so much better in so many regards. Like the bench itself is going to get better.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we can really kind of start jumping in on, what does this mean for the team going forward? How's it going to impact really a lot of different players? Because if you look at this trade, it doesn't impact Matt Chapman. At the end of the day, there's no way in hell they're not going to play Matt Chapman at third base. He's like the best defensive third baseman in baseball. He's going to play third. But it does get pretty interesting. I know Pete here asked, when everyone is healthy, what is the starting infield? Can Dom Smith play anything besides first base and DH? I think Dom Smith has actually played corner outfield in his career at times. I'd have to double check that. But
he has.
I'm going off memory. But, you look around and this could impact Wilmer Flores. This could impact Dom Smith. This could impact either Casey Schmidt or Tyler Fitzgerald or both. It's not going to impact Willie or Chapman. Like those guys are pretty set up. It's going to impact probably a guy like Gerard Encarnacion, who's probably going to be the biggest candidate to get DH or DFA'd in this situation. It's got a lot where it's going to impact the team. And I mean, I know I have my thoughts on, how I would personally set this up going forward, but what do you guys think, big picture, how this is going to impact them?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier briefly, like, and I know you guys feel the same. Hopefully Casey takes over second base full time if he's healthy, first and foremost. We, and especially me, have been wanting Fitz to be in a super utility role since last August. So I feel like this kind of gives him the chance to utilize that as being your weapon off the bench. He can come in and fill in any position in a crunch. He can come in and steal a bag for you if need be. Wilmer as well. Like, yeah, he's having a great season, all things considered, but last 15 games, I think he's got 1 home run and like 6 RBIs, which is definitely respectable, but that doesn't compare to what Devers is going to give you in a DH role. So having Wilmer off the bench, I mean, he's proven to be a clutch hitter, especially in late innings. There's another weapon that you can have. Gerard, like you mentioned, it's kind of tough knowing what they're going to do with him. He's definitely a power threat, but he obviously has not been great since he came back. So I just think, bigger picture looking for the rest of the season and further on from there, you now have a chance to play these guys in the best roles that help the team succeed. And I think that's really going to be the biggest takeaway from this all. You're beefing up your lineup, you're improving your defense, and now these guys that you've been putting a lot of pressure on, such as Tyler Fitzgerald, can now drop down to a utility role and come off the bench and be in a position that's going to be beneficial for himself and the team in general to get some production and get some wins across the board. So, like you kind of hinted on earlier, it helps your lineup, it helps your defense, and it helps your bench. So, all things considered, it's a win-win, especially long-term.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, my main concern with the trade is, unfortunately, having to platoon Wilmer with Devers now. So, no, I'm just kidding. No, I honestly think we're gonna see more of a rotation with Dom Smith and Wilmer Flores than anything. I mean, you're not gonna not play Devers, and I mean, Dom Smith isn't like some solidified guy. I mean, I think we're all very happy with how he's played. He's playing way better than any of us could hope for. But I think at this point in time, you're going to be looking at probably Wilmer and him splitting a lot of time. Obviously they don't like putting Wilmer out on defense too often, but I think he can do it occasionally. But I mean, if Dom Smith keeps raking and they want to get that extra lefty in the lineup, you might see them in more of a platoon situation. And you might just see Wilmer only playing it, starting a couple games a week and then just coming in off the bench late in games to get an at bat or two here and there, especially when Chapman comes back. So
I was going to say, I think I like Dom Smith's defense so much, though. Like, in my opinion, he's been the best defensive first baseman we've had since Bell.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't
No.
platoon them if it was up to me. And yeah, I mean, Smith's going to need a day off, so Wilmer can fill in there, but I wouldn't platoon them. But I just want to emphasize his defense has been incredible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like his defense way better. Don't get me wrong. I just from what I think they're gonna do, I have a hard time seeing them willing to bench Wilmer so quickly, because at the end of the day, like he's still what I show you guys earlier, he's still like top 10 in RBIs in the league, and he's been pretty clutch for them off and on. I mean, I still do think his numbers are going to continue to regress throughout the season, but I still see them at least giving him a couple starts a week. And it does make sense to, at least for now, give Dom Smith more at bats, just because if they do have kind of a platoon situation there, you know, Dom's going to get all the at bats against right-handed pitching. So that's kind of what I see happening personally. And then, I mean, if Casey ends up being okay off of this little foot contusion thing, doesn't sound like it should be too serious. Should be interesting to see what he ends up doing over at third for when Chapman comes back, and seeing if we get a little competition created at second base if Fitz continues to struggle over there offensively.
Yeah.
And hey, here's one thing that nobody's mentioned that could be a blessing in disguise. What if they trade Wilmer and I'm free from the bet?
What if he gets 100 RBIs with another team?
Yeah, I'm like, you're not off the hook if he goes to another team. It's 100 RBIs in the season. Hey, if he gets traded to the White Sox and he just goes and rakes over there and gets 100 RBIs, maybe you get Wilmer with a White Sox jersey on, even better.
Just don't bat Wilmer behind Slater, who struck out 5 times the other day.
Yeah. A happy Red Sox fan does exist. Just for anybody wondering. Doc, I don't hate the package you guys got back. Like I said, I think you guys got a fair package back, but I mean that's pretty rough as far as just losing a guy if Devers caliber. Yeah.
You guys will like Tibbs. That's what I'll say, Doc. You guys will like Tibbs.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Tibbs is a great fit.
Too. You know, like he could end up being really good,
especially with that short porch.
Yeah,
with
he's consistently producing like 100 to 108 exit velocities like regularly almost every game. It felt like, while not chasing, swinging at good pitches, like he could be really good, especially there.
Yeah.
Anybody that's wondering, Rafael Devers career splits. He's a career 284 hitter with a 910 OPS against righties, career 268 with a 750 against lefties. So, yeah. Not that they would have platooned him anyway, but
Rob, all I've heard, he's a great clubhouse guy. And a cool fact that a lot of fans didn't know that kind of came out earlier was he and Willie Adames have apparently been like really good friends for the last 10 years. So granted, Willie gets along with everybody, but they're really good friends for 10 years. So all things considered, doesn't sound like it's going to be any type of issue in the clubhouse.
Here's another one for you guys too.
Number, give him 41.
Are you sure you want that?
Anybody have 11 right now?
I just want 41 because
he was wearing in Boston.
The bad guy's gone. Anyone have 11?
I don't think anyone has 11.
I don't think so.
Pete, I don't think the Giants rushed Eldridge. Just keep in mind every level that almost, except for when he went to Eugene last season, every level he has started off slow and then he figures it out. So Daniel thinks 11's retired. I don't know.
It is. Yeah, I was like, I don't remember ever seeing
or something. Like,
I haven't seen 11 in
trying to think.
Carl Hubble.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I was like, I've never in my lifetime seen anybody wear 11. I'm like,
I just didn't even think about it.
But I'm like, I can't. I was like, I can't think of who it would be.
Yeah,
a little bit before my time.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Nice. Okay. So my thoughts, because I know you guys kind of gave, your thoughts on how they go about it. I agree. To me, Casey needs to be playing every day. Probably at second at this point. Tyler Fitzgerald has had like 200 plus at bats this season to show some life here. and he's really struggled. Defensively, he's been about average. Like, he's been fine in the field. He made a lot of really careless mental mistakes early in the year. I'll sit there and own the fact that he has been a better defender for the last month or so of his playing time. But offensively, like, he's down bad right now. On the base paths, he's been not very efficient for a guy that's 97th percentile sprint speed. I just don't really care for what they've gotten out of him as a full-time player. It doesn't mean he's a bad baseball player. I just don't think he's a full-time, everyday second baseman. I think he's a very high-end bench player. And where his speed can be a weapon off the bench, where he can probably give you at least a decent at bat late in a game. He has a lot of versatility where you can put him all over the place. If you use him, it doesn't kill you because he can play like 7 different positions basically on the field. So I do think he has a ton of value as a bench player. But kind of diving in on the Casey aspect of this, and you know, disclaimer, hopefully everything's good. They said it's just a contusion with his foot or ankle or whatever, that he fouled the ball off today. And it sounds a little bit more precautionary than anything. They have a day off tomorrow, so, you know, they're not playing again until Tuesday. Hopefully we see him in the lineup on Tuesday. But the big thing for me is Casey Schmidt, if you look, not just in the 5 games that he's been starting every day, but if you watch him, his chase has been almost entirely eliminated. And for anybody that's kind of wondering right now, I had been tracking this data because, you know, the goal was to let's see how he plays every day along with Tyler Fitzgerald. When they're both playing every day, let's kind of just compare the numbers. And in the last 5 games, Casey's chase rate has been 10.8%. Like, that's elite. Like, that is elite chase rate. Now, is he going to sustain that? No, like, it's not going to be 10% forever. But you watch his chase on the season, it's been consistently dropping. His walk rate's over 10%. He's hitting the ball hard. He's actually catching up to fastballs. You know, he took some good pitches from Yamamoto a couple days ago and then went down and golfed out a splitter, which is one of the better pitches in baseball, is Yamamoto's splitter. He hits it 108 miles per hour, 420 some odd feet into the left field bleachers. It was like halfway up the bleachers. He's been hitting the ball hard. He's been picking good pitches to swing at. Hasn't necessarily barreled every single one of them, but he's at least swinging at the right pitches. He's in balance. He's actually playing at just a really high level right now. And I do not know how anybody could potentially justify going, hey, you know what? You're showing that you're really breaking out with every day at bats. We're going to go ahead and put you back on the bench. Like, to me, it's such a small sample size that I can't necessarily say that, like, oh, he went out and earned it. But when you couple that with the fact that Tyler Fitzgerald has done nothing for this team in like a month or more since he had that hot stretch earlier in the year, I don't know how you couldn't go that route. Now, to your guys' point as well, I do think Devers is probably not going to go play first base in the middle of a season when he hasn't played first base, I think, at any point in his career. Not to say he couldn't learn the position, but I just, my gut tells me they're going to probably focus on him more at DH, which that does put Wilmer in a bit of a pickle. I think he is going to definitely get all the starts at first base against left-handed pitching. I do think they might have to give him a little bit more than just those starts. And then it gets kind of hairy with guys like Dom Smith. It's like, he's been playing well. Do you start bumping him into the corner outfield sometimes? And they're going to have to get creative with playing time. I mean, you really are going to have to. I think Herrera is definitely going to be the odd man out. I think they really like what they've seen out of Daniel Johnson defensively with his speed, and he just brings value in a bunch of different ways that way. But yeah, that to me, the call is going to be Schmidt to second, probably Devers at DH, and then you kind of have to figure out the whole Dom Smith, Wilmer Flores playing time from there.
Yeah, I was actually just looking. I can confirm Devers has not played a single game at first base in his career. He has played 2 games at shortstop. I think they're both like an inning apiece, if I saw it correctly. And then a couple games at second base. So, yeah, it's laid out pretty clear here. Third base ain't going to happen in like a month. And what's left is DH. So that's pretty much what you're left with. So that's why I go back to what I said, which is unless Devers is sitting, which I don't see happening, you're going to be looking at Wilmer getting maybe a couple starts a week at first base. And other than that, he's probably going to have to be off the bench. I know people don't want to hear that, but
I want to hear
guess
that.
what? Guess what, guys? You guys have a multi-time All-Star who has an over 900 OPS. Is one of the best power bats in the league, so I don't think we have to worry about Wilmer too much. Unfortunately, Wilmer can't play defense. It's the same boat we're in with Herrera Encarnacion. That guy is playing himself out of the big leagues real quick with not being able to catch a 50-mile-an-hour throw from second base.
This day just gets better and better for me.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just, like Dan said earlier, I do think they're going to still find ABs for Wilmer here and there, but like Dan said, Dom Smith is playing at a really high level defensively at first. So unless he really tanks, which is possible, for now, it probably is going to be Dom Smith over there. I mean, he's really helped improve the infield defense with being able to pick it at a lot higher level than Lamont Wade was doing. And then, I mean, you've even seen him make some nice plays on pop-ups and showed a little bit better range. So for the time being, I mean, if he just gives you decent production over there offensively, he's going to be in the game.
Yeah, like you said, and you mentioned it on last week's live as well. Dom Smith has helped Willy Adames defensively.
Yes.
And that's something that you can't take for granted. So will Wilmer get some playing time? Absolutely, undeniable. And it's probably a good thing that you keep him more in like a reserved role to come off the bench in a clutch situation. Because if you look at his splits and metrics from innings 1 through 9, he excels on the 8th and 9th inning, far more than the middle and early innings. So again, like I go back to, you play your players in the best positions and situations for the benefit of the team. You play them at their strengths. So I will be shouting that for all that I can do. And real quick, just want to touch base on JB's comments. Rafael Devers is the top 10 hitter in all of baseball. So, and 75 million of that contract is deferred. You're going to be paying him mid-20s through his prime for a top 10 hitter in the game who's going to get you 30 plus home runs and 100 plus RBIs with a near 140 plus, 130 plus WRC plus and OPS plus, I believe it was the sent out earlier, Cody. Mm-hmm. So it's when you're the Giants and you've had to deal with players such as Lamont Wade Jr., Austin Slater, Alex Dickerson, I can go on and on and on for so long and not being able to get a premier bona fide star. Screw that contract. We're going to take that all day. We're still going to be under the CBT tax. And beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Giants fans are loving it.
Yeah. And again, I think what's being reported, and you know what, I'm not in those discussions. I can't say with 100% certainty on this, but what has kind of been reported is the issues in Boston or with potentially going to first base were primarily because of how late in the season they tried to make any kind of change, and also the fact that he felt like Boston lied to him. So he very well might not have these issues with another team. He might look at the Giants and be like, hey, I'm not doing it this season because, it's already June. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable trying to learn a new position this season, and he's like third base or DH. So he might just play third base until Chapman's back and then DH him. Now, I could probably make a really strong argument that if Casey Schmidt's healthy, you just keep playing Casey at third base and DH Devers. But, if he doesn't have the issue and he's willing to do it in the off season, it changes kind of everything. That's the hard thing. We all don't know. Hopefully Buster Posey, you have to think he's very highly respected around the game. I have a feeling that Devers is going to have a little bit better feelings with the Giants organization playing for a guy like Buster with his buddy and Willy Adames. I guess that would have to be the hope.
And I don't like to make comparisons, but you look at a guy like Willy Adames, for example, probably one of the nicest guys in all of baseball, obviously a great clubhouse guy in your team. If you sign him to this contract that he did in the offseason told him, hey, we want you to be our cornerstone at shortstop. We want to build around you. We want you for the future. And then come spring training, you're like, hey, we're going to plug you in at first and DH. Like, he's a super nice guy, but you think he's going to take that kindly? He's going to be pissed as well. Yeah. So it's the same thing with Devers. So he's got every right to feel that way. And that's why I'm glad. And I mentioned earlier that Bomel and Buster are going to talk to him before they go to the media and say what position he's going to play. Mm-hmm. They're going out to make a point like, hey, we're going to do this different. We're going to treat you better than Boston treated you, plain and simple.
Yeah. Shout out Justin. As a Red Sox fan, I'm heartbroken, but I'm happy that Devers is going to a team that wants to win. I wish him nothing but the best. Best of luck, forever a champ. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget he was on that 2018 championship team. So
shout out Justin. Guys, what do you think of this really quick? I don't want to give a – what do you think of that?
I mean,
what is proclamation? That's all I'm going to say.
What is there to be negative about? Like, what more do you want as a fan than somebody coming in and trying to change the whole landscape of the team and how everybody across the league views them, and trying to build a winner and has done so far, and also being super aggressive? I mean, what more would you want? I mean, what were you rooting for the last 6 years to keep the status quo and be a 500 team at best? I mean, I don't know what more you could possibly ask for.
All I got to say is 0 out of 10 rage bait.
Hey, Buster had this team tied with the Dodgers 2 days ago. And they were a hanging Ryan Walker slider after he had already thrown a slider that got hit 400 feet foul away from being tied with the Dodgers after today.
Yeah.
And he went and acquired one of the top 10, 15 bats in baseball. Like, what the hell is there to be mad about? Like, yeah.
The only thing I'm mad about is it didn't happen sooner.
Right. How dare Buster? That bastard.
There's no salary cap in the MLB. It is not our money. The A's are moving out of the area. The Giants have a ton of money that is coming in for real estate. They deferred the contract, so they're going to be able to spend more money on top of this. I mean, there's really nothing to be upset about here at all. And who's to say
he's in his prime?
Who's to say the Giants are even done here? I mean, they can absolutely go and continue to be aggressive. They didn't clear the farm system.
That would track.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could be upset. Like, I mean, if you want to find something to be positive about, I mean, there's nothing to be upset about here.
Yeah. We're here. We're at it, Jason. We hit 1.75 on this live tonight. Yes, so we will be doing a giveaway. I don't know what the item is yet. We're going to have to figure that out. We'll probably announce that early this week. I'll try and talk to these guys, see if I can announce it on the minor league update on Tuesday. But we will definitely announce what that's going to be. But that's going to be on next Thursday's live show. So make sure you tune in there. The only thing I can tell you with certainty is to get entered, you are going to have to be watching that live show while it's happening. And you're going to have to be subbed to the channel. So if you're in here right now, there's like 430 of you guys watching right now. So if you guys are in right now and you want to have that opportunity, make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe. That way you can get into that next week. But we got a couple more of these. No Spaghetti Allowed says, I'm good with letting Casey versus Fitz play out for a while. If nobody takes a spot, get a solid vet, a Kiner Falefa type. And I like this. I think absolutely. My thought process while chatting before they even made the Devers trade was let Casey play third every day. Let Tyler play second every day. Let whoever wins second base at that point, like whoever's the better player at the end of that, let them play second. If both guys fell on their face, like Kiner Falefa, that was a name I specifically brought up, he would have made a ton of sense on this team. And he might even still make sense on this team, even if you do feel good about one of these guys, just as a high-end bench piece or utility guy. So I agree with this take.
Yeah, I mean, with Kiner Falefa, even if you're not starting him at second base, he's like a souped-up version of Christian Koss. You know, he's going to give you high-end defense, but he's actually going to be able to give you a little bit of a major league bat where Koss, as of right now, is just not ready to hit at this level. I mean, we saw him strike out against Kike Hernandez. Just had to throw that one in there. 87 mile an hour fastball. But yeah, I mean, we've been talking about that when we brought up just some trade ideas and how they could potentially add to this team. And we weren't even necessarily asking for a Devers type because we didn't really see something like that happening. But we were talking about, go and add a bench piece or two. With Devers coming in and having a guy like Wilmer, Dom Smith, or whoever they decide to go with on the bench, that upgrades your bench right there. And then you bring in a guy like him who's kind of a utility type that can bounce over to short, second, third. That would help out the team a ton. And he's having a nice season so far. It looks like he's hitting 289 on the year. He's not really a bat first type player, but he usually hits for a decent average, just not really going to have much power, but that's fine in this ballpark.
No, thank you.
I wonder who could be dropping that comment.
Yeah.
Suspicious.
I don't want the ghost of Mike Trout.
I love Trout, man, but I mean,
not anymore.
If you're going to be throwing him in a big yard like Oracle on defense in the cold, I don't think that bodes well for his body at all.
No, I just, the guy can't stay on the field.
I mean, if you can get him for a bag of chips and you're not paying any money to him, sure, but that's not going to happen.
Nope.
Yeah, 100%.
More than likely, Cole. More than likely.
Let's see. If Devers is willing to play first base, what if the Giants trade Eldridge? I still don't think Eldridge is getting traded.
Nope.
And I would not trade Bryce Eldridge.
Nope.
Or Hayden Birdsong.
No.
Or Elliot Ramos. As
Nope.
far as three young players that I have zero interest in trading. Now, if you are going to trade Bryce Eldridge, to me, it's going to have to be in a package like when the Padres traded for Soto, or when if like a Mookie Betts, when he got traded when he was 26 years old, gets traded for and also has multiple years left on this deal. Like, you're going to have to do it in a deal like that. Like, you can't trade him for a rental. You can't trade him for, like, I wouldn't even trade him for like Duran. Or in this Devers trade, obviously they got it done without him, but like I would not have been willing to in that deal. Like, to me, it's got to be like a younger superstar with like two, like if the Reds called you and said, "Hey, you want Ellie De La Cruz?" Sure, I'm going to trade, Bryce Eldridge every day of the week in that deal, but it's not happening.
Or like Paul Skeens.
Yeah, Paul Skeens, sure,
different story.
Yeah, but like. That's the kind of deal you move them in. To me, every other deal, no chance.
Nope.
Yeah, there's always going to be a small handful of guys you got to protect at all costs, save yourself as an organization. He's just not one of those guys you're going to move. Tibbs is a different story because he had really good value because he just got drafted. He's put up good power numbers. He's really good in college, and he's a guy that can move quickly. So obviously teams are going to covet that in trades.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to guys like Eldridge, you don't trade elite prospects. That never is going to age well for you. I mean, just look at what happened to the Padres with the haul they gave up for a year and a half of Juan Soto before they had to ship him out to get any value back. I mean, dude, they got absolutely hosed in that trade. You're looking at
ain't feeling bad.
No. You've got all this controllable young talent, and like almost all of them have panned out. You got a legit starter in Mackenzie Gore. You got James Wood. You got CJ Abrams. Hassel came up. So it's like you don't want to be doing deals like that if you're not going to have guys around. Going back on the Trout thing real quick, though, you guys want to know what he is owed? Like 37 million over the next 5 years. Like, learn from the Evan Longoria deal. Not that was the same kind of money, but like trades like that, like let's not get guys on the back end of their career and help a team out of a bad contract and get all of his worst years. Like I said, if they want to pay all of that contract and give him away for free, sure. But I mean, I would not give a single thing of value for that.
Nope.
Yep.
Unless you get him for nothing and then you somehow defer his contract till he's like 80 years old and you're paying nothing on it, then sure.
Yeah. Do we think Wisenhunt moves up now? I do not. Not right this second.
Not
I think
now.
Verlander's coming back. But that said, they just removed 2 potential starters from in front of them. So if Roop gets gassed out, because he's going to hit his career high in innings, I don't think Birdsong is going to get gassed out. I think Birdsong is going to be fine, but injuries can happen as well. Robbie Ray, he's thrown quite a few innings. Webb's durable, but again, injuries can happen. I don't see, there's just not really anything in front of him now. Before it was like, oh, well, Harrison's going to be next up. And then they always have Hicks in their back pocket. I mean, technically Carson Seymour and Carson Ragsdale are and Trevor McDonald, all those 3 are on the 40 man, but I don't think any of them are necessarily ahead of Wisenhunt in the pecking order when it comes to starting. So Mason Black's also on the 40 man, but again, don't think he's ahead of Wisenhunt. So I don't think he's necessarily up now, because I think they're going to want to keep building him as a starter. I think if they were going to use him as a lefty reliever, I feel like he would have been the one warming up today, not Joey LaCasey. So they clearly want to keep building him up as a starter, but I do think he just became next man up.
Yeah. I look at it this way. You have JV, who's about to come back, probably makes this next start. But other than that, you have so many guys that can eat innings in the pen right now that you don't even necessarily need to do a bullpen game. But if you really needed to eat up a couple starts, like Cody just said, you have Joey Lucchesi, you have Tristan Beck, you have Sean Jelly, and you have Spencer Bivens. Like that's a lot of innings that could be taken up by just those guys in the pen right now. So
yeah.
Oh, stop it.
Imagine.
Oh man.
A couple I wanted to do really
lose
quick. Jen, more likely second, I'd say.
Yeah, down the road.
That's still a few years away, but most likely second.
Hey, for anybody that's wondering, does anybody remember when Willie Adames was, I think, like 3rd percentile or 1st percentile defense on Baseball Savant, his fielding run value or whatever, based on like outs above average and all that crap early in the year? He's now 62nd percentile. He has a positive value at shortstop. He's been damn good defensively since like May 1st of this season. So it kind of got lost. Everybody kind of had that initial reaction to the start of the season. I felt like I think everybody was just like, oh my God, he's bad. He's terrible. He can't play defense at short. They need to move him. And kind of quietly, he's been one of the better defenders in baseball at that position for the last month and a half now. So,
and it's like
an interesting thing.
It's like Ricky and I said, I give a lot of credit to Dom Smith too. So it's
100%.
it's been very helpful. I don't think Willie liked throwing to Wade, with all due respect. Another really quick one, Willem. We touched on this earlier today. He's at 15 right now with Boston. If he hits 30, no, I wouldn't count it. If he hits 45, absolutely, 30 home run season with the Giants. So that's the way I look at that. But no, I won't count it if he finishes with like 30 something. So
yeah, and this is something that I mentioned with you guys. And anybody that's out there fact checking us, feel free to fact check me on this. I tried to check back the other day because I was talking to these guys about Duran actually, because when the Giants were kind of floating that one out there, I was like, who's the last 80 like non-Barry Bonds 80 extra base hit person they've had? Because you knew Bonds did it. I mean, for God's sake, he had 73 homers by itself one year, but you knew Bonds did it. I'm like, who was the last person? And to answer that question, it was Willie McCovey in 1970. And then prior to that, Willie Mays did it a couple times.
Yeah.
So this team has basically had 3 guys that have hit 80 extra base hits in a season. And I believe Devers has done that now at least 3 times.
Yeah.
If not more. He hit 90 in 2019. He hit exactly 80 in 2022.
I believe he's
So
on
he's done it
pace for
twice.
it this season as well.
He has 32 extra base hits in 72 games, so probably a little under pace, but he's done it twice, and the Giants haven't had somebody do that since Bonds. So, I mean, this guy can flat out rake. Like, that's huge.
Yeah, like I was telling you guys, the only guy that came to mind that even was somewhat close, and it wasn't that close, was Hunter Pence. I want to say in 12 or 13, he was like in the low 60s. But other than that, like they just haven't had any kind of combination of speed and a little bit of power in the, at least in the gaps, you know?
Yeah.
So it hasn't even been close.
Yeah, Chapman hit quite a few last season. 68 last season for Chapman.
Okay, so he's a little bit closer.
Yeah, and Hunter Pence probably 2013, if I had to guess. That was the year he kind of went a bit crazy.
Yeah, I think 13 is a little bit better than 12, actually.
67.
Oh, he's only one off. Okay.
Yeah, he had a really good year.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Chapman's a good point too. Like, other than those two guys, you haven't really had that combo of, you know, power and a little bit of speed as well to make that happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, the one good thing about them going after Devers instead of Duran is, even though Devers is like the better player in my opinion, you're not giving as much up for him because of the lack of positional versatility. And then that paired with the contract also, you know, because that Duran haul, if he does end up going to, say, San Diego, it's going to be a pretty hefty haul given how cheap he is for, what was it? What do we say? 4 years? 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, 3.5 years left on his deal.
Oh, 3.5.
Cheap,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 3.5 years at a really low cost is going to get them a pretty good size haul for that player. So that's going to be really interesting to see. But obviously, I mean, that's got to be off the table at this point, I would think, with the Devers move. So
yeah, I don't think they could pull the. I don't think they could pull the Naylor deal here with. I
mean, other than like another bench piece, what do you guys see them doing? I mean, with Ryan Walker's struggles, I could see them actually going and getting some kind of a reliever, whether it's, I don't know if they'd be able to pull off a decent lefty, but maybe another guy that could throw in like the 7th or 8th inning, more of a setup role type guy, just to add a strength to a strength.
Yeah, I would agree with that take, a left-handed reliever. And then the other two positions that are clearly in need are corner outfield in my position and or depth. I just don't think Yaz cuts it, and clearly not showing much faith in Matos. And then Daniel Johnson, I know they're kind of high on him, but it's still, you know, a little bit of an unknown. Yeah, on a perfect scenario. So I can see a corner outfield / depth there, and then backup catcher. I mean, you're seeing what they're doing with the two that they have up right now, and it's just not cutting it. That's why I started that other comment from LD, just because he said my guy, Joey Bart. But I just wanted to say you're my favorite viewer for that comment. Thank you so much. But no, on a serious note, they definitely need a backup catcher, like desperately.
For sure.
Well, the Angels will be in a position to be trading guys away. So,
yeah, I think Travis d'Arnaud we brought up. We kind of last week somebody mentioned Tyler Stevenson. I talked to my buddy who's a Reds fan because I was just like, do you think there's any chance that they would move him? He doesn't think they would move Stevenson. He feels like they're pretty committed to him right now, so he's probably off the table. But yeah, d'Arnaud is out there. If you can get a right-handed catcher that can just hit lefties a little bit, like that would do a good amount to take some pressure off Bailey.
Don't say Tom Murphy though.
No, God, no.
You're not supposed to say that name, Dan.
Yeah, dude. You like say it 3 times, like he's gonna show up with his knee fixed. Like, get the guy out of here. But yeah, I think catcher, left-handed reliever. Do I think? Hey, fact checked. Kent had 81 and 02. There we go. Sorry.
That makes sense. That checks out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I definitely think that's pretty much it. Corner outfield. If you can upgrade there, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to upgrade with an everyday guy. I do think this takes the Giants out of like running for a guy like O'Hearn, because I don't think they're going to feel good about him in right field. And they've got too much at first base right now. I mean, maybe a good right-hander that can, hit lefties, good bench piece. That might be what they're looking at. Like that, there's not a ton of like blatant holes, like as far as that I think they can actually fill.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually just looking at d'Arnaud's splits, and I mean, this is kind of what they did with him in Atlanta, is just platoon him. And when you look at it, he's played half the amount of games against lefties for some reason as he has righties, even though they have O'Hop over there. But he's hitting 304 against lefties and only 195 against righties. And he's got 2 of his 3 home runs on the year against lefties. So he's been significantly better, even in a small sample size, against left-handed pitching. So, I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense. It's probably going to cost you damn near nothing, and I don't see them playing hard to get with giving him up. I mean, you have a young catcher there. If you already know you're out of it, who cares about holding on to a vet catcher that's there for, I think we said last week, 1 more year. So I don't see why not. He's not going to put any pressure on Bailey to do anything because he's not going to be around long. He's older.
Yeah. Only under contract for what, a year and a half?
Yeah.
So as your backup for this year and next year.
Yeah, it buys you a little bit of time, and then by that time you can see if one of these minor league guys can kind of develop into something just as a backup at least. But
yeah. Aaron says, in all seriousness, having a catcher hit 180 is much more malleable with the length of the lineup now. Yeah, I mean, having a lineup changing presence in your lineup makes it easier to stomach some of this stuff. The biggest issue with the Giants for a while there were like 3 different players that all I would hear people on X saying was, well, if everyone else was hitting a little better, we could tolerate this. With like Yaz struggling, with Fitzgerald struggling, with Bailey struggling, with whoever it was. Insert defensive plus player that couldn't hit here. It's like too many guys that we were like, oh, if everyone else was hitting, it's like, okay, but they're not. So you got to upgrade somewhere. So for sure. It makes it a little easier to deal with Bailey. I think Bailey is the one you could probably tolerate the most because of the value he brings defensively at an extremely important position. Now, that said, I'm still not tolerating a $180. Like, I'm sorry. Get that thing over the Mendoza line and we can have a discussion. But it definitely helps stomach that one for sure.
Yeah, because like you mentioned, the players that you're saying, oh, if only they were hitting, you're talking Matt Chapman, Willie Adames, Elliot Ramos when they had their early season struggles. And it's like, okay, if they're not producing, what justifies having an automatic out in your lineup right after them? Like, you're just setting yourself up for failure at that point. So does it help? Absolutely. Am I still happy about it? No, but it's like you said, you can stomach it a little bit better, but I still want to see him hit at least 215, 220. Like, I feel like it's not a lot to ask for from a big league player.
I still do want to see, though, regarding second base, how things shake out, because if Tyler doesn't hit one of his typical red hot streaks like he has gone on in the past, and Casey doesn't turn it around or he gets hurt or whatever happens, I still do want to monitor this situation in Toronto, because they're looking at a typical middle of the road team. They're 38 and 33, which is good for them. However, they have a minus 12 run differential, which tells me that they're probably going to hit a hardcore slump in the near future. And I would really like to see what happens with Bo Bichette on an expiring deal and seeing if you can make a move to get him in here, because while he is playing much better this year, I don't think he's at all a guy that you'd be worried about having to give up some massive haul for. No. I honestly think it would be very similar to a Chris Bryant type deal in 2021, where you're looking at probably a couple guys in your top 30 prospects, probably a guy that's a little higher up there, maybe a top 10 guy for sure. and then another like middle of the road, or mid-tier top 30 guy. I could see doing it. And then maybe you give up like some major leaguer and you throw them in there too. But I don't think by any means with his current numbers, I don't think you'd be giving up some massive haul.
Yeah. And like Aaron says, Brandon Lowe is also another guy. Keep an eye on.
He's having a good season too with Tampa.
Yeah. He's hitting 257, 757 OPS, 114 OPS plus. I mean,
and again, you don't
the average and
you don't need guys hitting for these high 800 OPSs. You just need guys that can give you stable production and aren't going to be dipping down in the low 600s or mid 600s with their OPS, but guys that can stay in like the 750 range, like that would win the Giants a ton of extra games where they're struggling to score runs for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, we're going to be wrapping this up here probably in a couple minutes. What else we got? I'm kind of peeking through the comments here. Jim, we did kind of answer this on who we thought was going to be impacted most, or like kind of how it impacted a bunch of people. I'm not sure. I think Wilmer could end up being the one that loses the most playing time, realistically. But I also think the answer to me is who does it impact most? Probably whoever, between Casey and Fitz isn't playing second base. In the immediate at least, and then after that, Wilmer.
I'm curious what happens on Wednesday when he ultimately gets his first start. Like if Casey still needs a couple days, like do they play him at third? Like referring to Devers, do they play him at third or?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, if Casey's healthy, like I said earlier, I would play Casey at third and just DH Devers.
No, absolutely.
Defense, especially with the way Casey's swinging it right now.
Devers has only played DH this year. He hasn't played a single game at third, so I wouldn't even worry about throwing him over there. I mean, he has to know what's going on. I mean, he's already supposedly talked to Willie. I don't see any way in hell Buster would just randomly make this trade, take on all this money, and then Devers is still like, no, I'm not doing it, even though he's already been doing it all year.
Yeah.
But I'm sure with the guy he respects in the front office, I think it could really change things for a guy like Devers in the offseason. Like Cody said previously, if he has time to, really develop at that position defensively all throughout the spring.
No, Christopher, don't even put that evil on me. Ed hasn't indicated anything to the Giants. Obviously a lot of people know about what went down with him in Boston, but I talked about it earlier. I don't know if you're here. Bomel and Buster both are going to talk with Devers tomorrow before they make any announcements regarding his position. So
yeah, let's see. I had one more. Somebody sent me an IG message earlier.
I forgot about that
with a question for the pod. So, anybody that has any topics y'all want to talk about or you want us to discuss either on like future videos or whatever, feel free to message either myself or you can also send one to Ricky on IG. You can message me, the tag there on the below my name. That's the handle both on Instagram or X. So send me one on there. But they said, what does this mean for offseason acquisitions? Verlander, Hicks, Wilmer, Lamont, Yaz, and other money will be off the payroll, but we're taking on Devers. Right field is vacant after the season, as well as a spot in the rotation. Will the Giants replace these positions in free agency or through the farm system? What do you guys think? Because I think money-wise, let's see, trying to do the quick. The Giants are actually in the green on that. They're going to be having more money off the books coming than they do having coming on with Devers, probably by like 10 million-ish.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that for almost a year now. So they're going to save a lot of money. If anything, I mean, you're not going to really miss much when Verlander, Hicks, Wilmer, Lamont, and Yaz are gone, both in production and on payroll. So the Devers contract and his production is absolutely going to be a added plus on the team in comparison to that. So that's not a big deal immediately. As far as right field is concerned, that's probably going to be a position they upgrade. I mean, you guys know who Cody wants, you know who Ricky wants, you know who I want. I mean, is it going to happen? Probably not, but it would
$500 million offer in front of
it
Kyle
would
Tucker.
sure as hell be
See what he
nice to
does.
see if Tucker joins for sure, man. So you got a couple options there. I think as far as the rotation is concerned in that question, the most likely option would be Wiz. If all goes well, you can see him kind of fill that role. I know a lot of people view him more as a reliever. I think if he gets a nice little arsenal, he can be a pretty solid, 4 or 5 in your rotation. So I want to be opposed to that. I mean, if you want to go the free agency route, you can, but that's an option you have in Sacramento. But as far as the corner outfield position is concerned, if you're not going to commit to Luis Matos, and Yaz is for sure gone next year, there is a big-time free agent that you can go after and you can afford more than anything. With all the contracts on the team, you can absolutely afford to hand $500 million to Kyle Tucker and call it a day. So,
yeah, and another thing to keep in mind too, not for this coming off season, but the season after, they will be also off of Robbie Ray's $25 million contract. So
yeah,
there's that too. Obviously, Robbie Ray's been fantastic this year. You'll be more than happy to pay him $25 million next year if he keeps going at the pace he's going at right now. But he'll be in his mid-30s by the end of this contract, and you'll have that money freed up, and then you can then go and put that money right back into free agency, bring another veteran guy back in. By then, you probably have Wisenhunt in the rotation with Webb, Roop, and Harrison. And then, like I said, always just stick to your 2 vets in the rotation. And then, you're really only looking at a few positions in the position player group where you're probably going to look to add. And like you guys just said, right field, potentially second base. And I mean, that's mostly it. By then you hope, Eldridge can take over first, and you're not really going to have a catcher replacement in the next year or so. So really you're only looking at 2 positions. So if you can't get Tucker, like I said, maybe you go out and try to get Bichette and move him over to second base.
Yeah.
And do that, and then you're really set up on the position player side.
Yeah. I'm curious what would be out there for trades too, because, Tucker might be a tough one to reel in, obviously. I would say you'd probably bet against them getting him, but, I would still be out there prepared to hand him a $500 million offer if I'm the Giants personally.
for sure.
But if you don't, I mean, there are a couple internal options they could look at. Luis Matos, they have Grant McCray in Sacramento, who's quietly turned his year around. I mean, he's still striking out a little more than you want, but he is at least been a league average bat now in Sacramento. For anyone that was wondering, he was like 25-30% worse than league average going through April, and May and June he's been really solid. Still want to see the strikeouts go down, but he's back to running quite a bit. 17 steals on the year. He's hitting like 260. So it's numbers are coming back, but they have a couple internal options. It'll be really interesting. And as for the rotation, I can't envision they're going to feel comfortable going into next year with only like 5 guys. With Wisenhunt, and unless they really have confidence in guys like Mason Black, Trevor McDonald, Carson Seymour being able to fill in. So I would anticipate they'll at least sign one veteran. Doesn't necessarily have to be someone even of like Verlander's standing, like where they're paying him $15 million. I could see them trying to snag a guy on like a $8 to $10 million deal that's got some upside and see if they can turn him into something. But I think they're going to get at least one guy.
Can I just say 2028 is going to be a super fun year when our team consists of Elliot Ramos, Jung-Hoo Lee, Jacob Christian, Matt Chapman, Willie Adames, Xander Darby, Rafael Devers, Bryce Eldridge, and Jeremiah Jenkins for
all the friends of the show.
Yeah, that'll be a fun.
These guys are like, who?
Yeah. No, but yeah, and that's the one thing with that deal that they did with that trade, the fact that I mean Tibbs he's a good, I really like Tibbs, but one thing I want to point out is as much as I really like Tibbs, I'm higher on both Bo Davidson and Dakota Jordan in the outfield, and they didn't give up either. So I think Tibbs is more advanced probably than either. Many people might not agree with me based on what Bo's numbers are at the same level, but I do think Tibbs is a more advanced, like polished hitter, just with his approach. But I like both of those guys as more as prospects than I do Tibbs, and they didn't give up either. So to me, they got this done with and I don't like saying low ceiling because Tibbs doesn't have like a low ceiling, but a guy with a lower ceiling than other players in their system, and they managed to not give up the toolsier, higher ceiling guys. So that's part of what I like about that deal.
I was looking at some of the names for this upcoming free agent class, and there's a few others we haven't really brought up, but other than Tucker, you still do have Schwarber in there. Bellinger's getting a little bit older, but he has an opt-out. Bregman has an opt-out. Other than Bichette, you still have Suarez, but then you have Ozzy Albies is a name that I've seen thrown around a couple times for as far as trades go this year at the deadline if the Braves do sell, because he's only got a club option for next season. So he's another guy you could look at. If not the trade deadline, maybe in the offseason, maybe they're like, this isn't a guy we're going to pay. We'll trade him now and try to get a little something in return for him. So there are some decent options out there. Tucker's the one true big name, but there are a handful of other guys that could fill some needs for the Giants. And then on the pitching side, I wouldn't think it would be crazy if the Giants got any of these guys, but you have Dylan Cease, Zach Gallen, and Framber. Yeah. I honestly could absolutely see Framber being a fit for the Giants, not only being a left-handed pitcher, but being a huge ground ball guy. I think he would be a great addition to the rotation for this park. I could definitely see that happening. And I don't think he would be pricing them out, especially with what kind of flexibility they'll have in this offseason. I could see them bringing in a guy like that and having him around for a few years. And then that fills that veteran left-handed pitcher spot that Robbie Ray would vacate after next season. So,
yeah, because realistically, you're not going to go through a season with 5 starters. It doesn't happen. So Wisenhunt's going to get a shot at some point. They haven't even started his clock as far as the 40-man goes. So it would allow them to stick with the 2 young starters they have with Birdsong and Root. And if someone gets hurt or whenever that happens, because inevitably it will, Wisenhunt can slot in, give him his opportunity. If he takes the job and runs with it, or he shows enough that you feel comfortable, then once Ray's gone, you just can kind of slot him on in there. So especially if you go and get like a Valdez for 2 or 3 years or whatever. So they can definitely make it work. So it was one of the few things that Farhan said that I 100% agree with is in today's game, you really need like 7 starters.
Yeah.
He just never practiced what he preached. So,
I mean, it depends on your definition, if it means having Alex Wood and DeSclafani and Ross Stripling all in the same, rotation, then sure.
Well, I mean, I guess he considered Ryan Walker a starter. So
these names are making me want to drink.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've hit on about everything. If you guys have anything else you want us to cover next week, we're definitely going to be going live next Thursday. I'll be back with a minor league report. Missing a name. Tibbs, you have RIP James Tibbs. You're not on the Eugene portion anymore. But we'll be going through the minor league update Tuesday. Might possibly record some stuff, some other things. Keep in mind, we are on Spotify now, all live shows. So this will end up on Spotify. I think the best viewing experience is still going to be watching it on YouTube or anything like that, because we do often like to share stuff. Today, we didn't really do too much of that, but a lot of times we will share some clips, stuff, visuals. But we like to pull the comments up, but you still can listen on Spotify. So for some people on your Monday commute or Friday commute, we'll have some stuff for you.
And just a heads up, we talked about it briefly last week, but Ricky and I were at the game in San Jose last night. We did interview about 4 players. So we got the audio and the video. We got clips being developed and edited as we speak. So we'll have some reels for you guys and maybe some short videos, but mainly going to be doing some YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels for those. So those should be out throughout the week. I just got to find time to edit them. So just another thing in addition to the upcoming days.
Yep. We will have some fun stuff coming out. And definitely we're going to have some fun stuff in the off season too, because
Yeah,
we got a lot of guys that apparently watch the show. So
don't want to toot our own horn, but they knew who we were. Where were they last night? We'll just put it that way.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun time. But appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining. Like many have said here, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Get ready for the giveaway that's going to happen next Thursday. We don't know the item yet. We will announce that. We'll try and make sure we announce it by like Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. Whether it's on X, IG, all this stuff, we'll put it out. So hit that sub button so you have a shot next week.
Yeah, right. But otherwise, go Giants. You guys are all invited to the Rafael Devers fan club. We meet every Thursday. Okay. Bring a hot dish.
Yeah. All right. Later, everyone.